Do you ever put a sales voice on? You know, the real, like I put a podcast voice on. It's a little bit more energetic. It's a little bit more excited because I know as a listener, you want some energy. You don't want monotone. And I think that's okay, isn't it? We're always kind of playing a character. But in sales, do you put a sales voice on? You might need to at certain times. Like if you're giving a presentation, you might want to be more animated, more interesting, more excited. So part of it's okay. But another part of it is a little weird because if you sound like a salesperson, you get treated like one. Today, we're going to be talking about how do you become great at sales when you're not extroverted, when you not only don't like to be around other people or you're uncomfortable. It's not that you don't like to. I think we all like to be with friends and family. That's easy. We're comfortable. They know us. We don't have to pretend we're someone else. They accept us for who we are. But in sales, we have to talk to strangers. Now, this, from a neuroscience standpoint, is very threatening, meaning that we're constantly being viewed as being thrown off the island. So our subconscious, our reptilian brain will do almost anything to protect us from that. It will give us signals to, run, freeze, or flight. So, but in sales, we're in this mode most of the day. How do we manage this and how do we develop it? Now, a lot of people can see this as a deficit. And if you allow it to control you, it is. But if you're able to manage it and come up with a way that works for you by getting the other person to talk, showing interest in them, it can become a superpower. In Malcolm Gladwell's book, David and Goliath, he gives a lot of examples of how people who have adapted around a weakness, and he focused on dyslexia, which I happen to have. And what people do is they find different ways of solving the problem. And if you have it or you know somebody who has it, it gets misdiagnosed as a kid. You get labeled as slow. It's not that you're slow, it's that your brain is seeing things scrambled. And it's harder to put the letters in order, and everyone else finds it natural. So you come up with different skills. And what he did was he studied dyslexics, and he found that a great percentage of them were very successful, but also a great percentage of them were in prison, meaning that they couldn't adapt around a particular element of their personality. Now, being extroverted and introverted, that's, I don't know whether we're born that way or we adapt. It's probably some mix of it. But if you're introverted, what I suggest is learn how to develop great questions. Learn how to show empathy, interest, caring, curiosity, and interest in the other person. Because what ends up happening is you become fantastic at sales because you get the other person talking. If you're extroverted, you naturally want to talk. And that can be helpful in certain situations, but harmful in others. In the complex sale, we really want the other person talking most of the time to learn what they care about, to get deep into their head about what they feel about the problem that we solve and have them realize it. We think that just because they have a problem that they know what it means to them. Most of us, we push our problems down and we don't address them until they become critical. But that's what selling is bringing that problem up, making it a priority right now, today, to fix it. So we've got a great guest on today, somebody who's 100% commission, which means that they have to sell. And I think we go through this journey of how she has adapted her introversion into becoming great at sales. And if you watch her on YouTube, where I put the video of the interview, you would think, well, she's not introverted. But It's just something that we adapt. And don't think for 1 second, if you're an introvert, that you can't become great at sales. If you look at the couple 200 great salespeople that I've interviewed, I'd say at least half are introverted and maybe only 10% are extroverted. Only about 10% are that gregarious, life of the party person who always has a story and everything. Most of them are just very calm people, very curious, very interested in the other person, very relaxed, and almost a little nervous during the presentation or the interview. Let's get into this. Hey, look for the YouTube channel. I'll be posting. I did a webinar with CoVideo about the science behind connecting with other people. It's get away from spam and the automation and talk about how people connect with strangers. It's kind of an intro to the course, start the conversation, get the meeting, of which, if you're in the course already, check out the last office hours. When you have several students in there on the office hours sharing their journey about how they went from either not embracing the course, fighting it a little bit, to adapting to it, and then all of a sudden getting a week full of meetings. It's exciting to hear and great to know that it's working for people and it's changing their business, getting the whole deals. I told them, it's like, you haven't bought the second course. You can't close the deal yet. But also what's happening is the community. People are sharing little nuggets about what's working for them with technology, tools, techniques, approaches that are around the course and how they're scaling it. So if you're in the course already, make sure you check it out. Office hours is the second to the last chapter. The very last chapter is the one-on-ones. And you get to follow someone's journey from, first adapting the course to having great success with it. Also check out our friends over at CoVideo. Video email is a game changer. It's one of the ways that you can show things from your screen, show value, show a connection with somebody. Maybe not on the first one. It shows too much effort on the first one. But the second and those follow-on conversations is a way of adding value and connecting with the other person. That law of proximity with video is enforced. So check it out at covideo.com. You get a 14-day free trial. Make sure you tell them you heard about it on The Brutal Truth. Let's get into the interview. Hey, Sam, welcome back to the show. Give us a little update on yourself.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really, really honored to be back. Update. I have moved to a different part of the state. I moved from Chapel Hill to Wilmington, North Carolina. So moved about 2.5 hours down the road, still with the same company and doing the same stuff, but just closer to the ocean now.
Nice. Was that the motivation to kind of
Yes.
quality of life?
I've always loved the ocean. And whenever we would go on vacations as kids with our family, we would go to the beach for a week and I would always cry my eyes out the day that we had to leave. So it's like, there's something here.
I think that's kind of innate, don't you? I mean, just, if you look at over history, people have always desired to live by water.
Yep. Well, that's always been a goal of mine. A goal-oriented person. So the first goal was owning my own home by the time I was 30. So I've got my house in Chapel Hill. I'm currently renting that out. I didn't sell it because it was my first house and I love it so much. And then second goal is to have a beach property by the age of 40. So I'm 34 now. So working on property number 2, if I can swing it sometime. So yeah.
Oh, now's the time to buy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And how's business been?
It's, it's been an interesting year so far, hasn't it? I think a lot of adapting has had to take place. And when everything first hit, it was kind of funny. I was speaking at a camp conference up in Atlantic City, New Jersey, right towards the end of March. And it was like, that was the last conference on earth we all went to, and that was it. And then everything kind of shut down. So I decided around June in the middle of a pandemic to move to a brand new town and try to develop a new territory here. And it's going well. I mean, I think it's always for me going to go a little bit slower than I would like. We're anyone in sales, we can be a little bit impatient sometimes, but for me, I find more pleasure out of building the relationships with people. So I'm starting to meet a lot of really great people, and it is really exciting to be in a new place, and trying to insert yourself somewhere as the new person without being overly aggressive and stuff like that. So I think it's been going as well as it can go, but I've been really trying to adapt and be respectful of whatever people want. So when COVID first hit, I really was not reaching out to anybody because nobody wants to talk about their money right now and their payroll and switching that up. So I kind of took my foot off the gas a little bit more as a sensitivity factor, just to be respectful of business owners right now, because everyone was really, really sensitive and figuring it all out. So I wanted to be cognizant of that. So those few months, April, May, June, were very, very tough for me. I was not closing nearly the amount that I wanted to, but I feel like it was the right thing to do in terms of being respectful towards my prospects and my clients.
Cool.
Yeah.
And what's it like being the new person in town?
It is exciting, and it's also tough because I tend to be naturally somewhat introverted, and I think that there's tons of sales reps, consultants, folks out there who naturally are a bit more introverted, maybe are a bit more empathic, maybe a bit more sensitive. I know that I don't take rejection very well. And so I've really had to focus on, just think about the relationships that you're starting to build with people. Just introduce yourself, just be kind. And you also have to push yourself a bit. I get very, very exhausted, more than I think the normally extroverted sales rep would get. So where they may be super excited to go to that after hours event at the end of the day. I struggle with that a little bit, but I push myself. I went to one last night. It ended up being great. I met some great people, but I think that's the struggle, at least for me personally, is pushing past that, because we're all hustlers. We're all in sales. We're all doing that grind. I just have to figure out how to really make it work for me so that I'm not, when you get exhausted and when you're not selling as much, people feel that, and so you don't want to come off as this new person in town who's desperate and trying to make it happen. And when I first got here, I was really nervous and I was panicking a bit. And after talking to a few locals in town who've lived here, been here a while, whether it be a business owner or a referral partner or whatever, they've all kind of said the same thing, which is just, I know it's a panic, but take your time and just get out there. I think that's such a basic principle of sales, but for people like me who are a bit more sensitive, I really have to work to push through some of that stuff. It doesn't come naturally to me. So that's been a bit of a challenge that, every day I have to work through that.
Yeah, it's been kind of strange because in the last 2 years, I've almost exclusively focused on interviewing great salespeople. And I got to tell you, as far as like extroverts, I'd say it was less than 10%.
Really?
There was probably two people that seemed like what you would classically think of as a natural salesperson.
I love that. I love hearing that.
And a lot of people that, that are in my courses and stuff, well, I'm just not a natural salesperson. It's like, well, in the complex sale, and you're in a complex sale, it's many decision makers, long period of time, changes the way they do their business. It's not flipping a switch.
I just got someone who I've been going after for 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the hard part too, right? I think you and I had talked about last time, maybe we didn't, but kind of the 80% of salespeople and then like the top 20%. And I think that that's changing a little bit, and maybe what that top 20% looks like. Again, I'm a relationship-based person. I get a lot of pleasure out of fixing things behind the scenes for people, coming in and, hey, maybe you have a super successful business, but what's going on behind the scenes, behind this closed door? And of course, those conversations are very sensitive, and people's walls are usually up pretty high, and that's sometimes when you'll get rejected. But if you can really get to the root of, why did you get into business? What are you passionate about? And then I really enjoy talking about the HR and the employee side of things, because I've had experiences at companies where the culture was not great and I wasn't excited to come into work. So once I am able to connect with someone and we can start talking about the things that are actually exciting, that they're excited about their business, but they're also able to share their challenges with me, that means so much, because they have just let a wall down for me and they're sharing that with me. That's huge. We may have only just met a few weeks ago. So I get a lot of pleasure out of, just like I said, that, coming in behind the scenes. And like you said, it's kind of the longer sales cycle. I don't tend to be a one call close type of person. And I hope that that's changing, because I used to sell cars. We can stereotype that all day long. But it does tend to be a very fast paced, high transaction, go, 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 send everybody else off to operations. Whereas I feel as clients, a lot of people do want that human connection, be able to call someone that will actually answer the phone. So I try to talk about that stuff and just be human, because I know business owners get solicited a whole heck of a lot. So instead of doing the door to door and the knocking and the telemarketing, I don't like being solicited like that. So why would I do it to someone else?
Yeah, because I just did a post and I think I've got the messaging, my messaging down. It's like, can you sell with a commercial, or does it require a conversation?
Yeah.
And most of us are selling stuff that requires a conversation, but we
Yes.
think our commercial is going to get us there.
Well, and usually our commercial is garbage.
Well, it's assuming that the other person has some interest already.
Or some insight into your career. I know a lot of, and I did this when I first got into payroll. You start using terms like PEO, which is professional employer organization, or ASO, or MMS, or major markets. They don't know what that means. You've got to really, really make sure that you're putting yourself in their shoes. And I did that, my first or second year. I was like, oh, if you're on a PEO, they were like, oh, I'm so sorry, Samantha, to interrupt you. I don't know what a PEO is. I'm like, oh, whoops. So right. It's, you've got to, and, you talk about this all the time. You've got to listen and really slow down. That was one of the biggest pieces of advice I've ever gotten that has worked quite well for me. And slow down. We're a very fast transaction society. We're a very want it now, got to have it now. And of course, if I'm not calling, someone else is. I understand that. But once you make that, traction, I feel like you're right. We're having high level conversations, and if I'm just trying to shove something down your throat, I'm not building any value. I'm not taking my time. I'm certainly not learning about them and what drives them and why they even got into business. So I think it's really important to have those more holistic, organic conversations without just coming in and being that salesperson. I don't think people like that person anymore. I appreciate the hustle, but I think it needs to be done a different way and really get that organic level. Because at least for me, when I'm buying something, I don't go on to Google and look at the reviews. Sometimes I do. I'm usually asking my friends, who do you like? Who do you trust? Right. And they've already done the homework for me. Yeah. So and that's why I love having referral partnerships, because if they're not interested in what I have to say, all right, maybe they might need help with something else though. So I think one of the best things I've ever learned being in sales is be a resource. Just You
help.
don't have to sell your own product all the time. I do coffee meetings with partners all the time. And if you just keep them front of mind, it can really make you look like a hero. And again, for someone like me who's more kind of intrinsic, I love feeling like that. I don't need the recognition. I really don't. I love feeling like, man, I was the person that helped them to do that. And that really means a lot to me. So and for some salespeople out there, it's just transactions and they make a whole lot of money. And I think that's awesome. I really, really do. For me, I'm not as driven on the high transaction side where I am, I want this customer for life. I'm paid on
Right.
residuals, I'm paid on retention. So that's important. But even if I weren't, I still feel like it's important to keep those people with you and let them know that you're there for them, regardless of if you're a sensitive individual or an empath or whatever. I think that sometimes being that vulnerable with your clients shows them that you really care. I'm really invested in this. And so I try to share that when I can, when it's appropriate.
And were you always introverted?
Yeah, less now. I
Yeah.
think, being in sales for 12 years now, you kind of have to push through that stuff and fake it. But as a kid, oh yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I kind of I had a group of friends, but kind of stuck to myself, did my own thing and was just, sensitive. And that's also, I think there's a stigma about being a sensitive soul, and it doesn't have to be there. I think that's what makes me me. I really deeply care about stuff and I feel things. And that doesn't have to be bad. I think that can work to my advantage and show how much I care. So I try to flip that, because I know there are going to be people who are saying, oh, sensitive, just move on, like get over it. Like I've heard that a lot when I was younger in my career, when I was selling cars, get over it, move on to the next one. And
Right.
that can work. But someone like me, I need to kind of examine why that hurt, why that felt the way it did.
Right. And car sales is very different because
Yeah.
it tends to, because they say if you leave the lot, you're not coming back. Even though I've always gone back. I never go in there.
I would have loved you.
Right. But if you have kind of that empathic, caring thing, you in a car sale, it might work against you.
Oh yeah, no, it didn't work very well there.
Yeah. But it works in the complex sale because a business owner, they want you to care about their business.
Yeah.
If you don't, you're just a vendor.
Yes. Yes. And I don't just want to be a vendor.
Right? You want to be a partner. You
Yeah.
want when your caller ID comes up, that you want them to pick up the phone because they want to talk to you.
And I will be very transparent. Where I used to work, when a client would call me, it was always a panic, like, oh, do I want to pick this up? There's probably an issue. Oh, no. And you would kind of hide from those calls. That's bad. Where I am now, I love hearing from my clients, and it's almost never an issue. If it is, I'll fix it for you. That's why I'm here answering the phone. But, they'll call me just to chat sometimes. Or of course, do you have the solution? Can you recommend someone, whatever? But I love engaging with my clients. They're the ones that are paying my bills,
Yeah.
honestly. I mean, I really care about them a lot. And I think it's so important to make them feel that, and not just with a drip email campaign that you send out once a month. And how you do it, like, that doesn't mean
Christmas
very
emails.
much. Yeah, I mean, I love like what you do with the videos on LinkedIn. That's way more engaging than just language words. Like we all get a bajillion emails. You
Well,
don't
that's
need to
it.
hear from me in that way.
Because I know LinkedIn prefers the text
Oh, do
posts
they? Yeah.
by like 10x.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, why are you still doing the videos? It's like, well, video for the people who want, some people just go to see the video.
Yep.
They want to
Yeah,
laugh.
I do. Yeah.
They want a different viewpoint.
Well, and again, I feel like it makes you more human, Brian. Like you're
Yes.
talking to me, I feel like,
And that's what I want. I break the fourth wall.
Yep.
I
Yep. Someone who does a really good job of this, who is recently become a great mentor to me. His name is Rob Renz, and he's a State Farm agent here in Wilmington, North Carolina. he does so many great LinkedIn videos. And what I like about him and what's been inspiring to me is that he doesn't really talk about insurance. It's more, what are you doing to be the best version of yourself today? And this is what interests me today. So I'm definitely, once January hits, I'm going to myself try to do more LinkedIn videos and actually speak to people. I just think it's much more engaging. And I mean, truly, Brian, if you did just posts on LinkedIn, I probably wouldn't read them. I really wouldn't. I see a video and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'm going to click that. So,
Right. Do I want to read through something? And do I know who that is? I don't see any facial expression, no tonality.
yeah.
You know,
And I think that's an advantage to using Zoom is we're all trying to figure everything out. Some people do not want to meet in person. Some people do. We need to be respectful of that. But with Zoom, at least we can see each other. A
yes,
phone call is tough. When you're telemarketing, get hung up on, you can't tell. And
right.
it's also like with texting, you can't tell the tone really. So it is
Yes.
helpful that we can at least see each other from afar. I think that helps with trying to feel out their energy and gauge their interests and stuff. So, but yeah, I've been trying to take advantage of that as much as I can. And there are going to be some people right now who just don't want to engage with you at all. And I think that again, as a sensitive kid, I would at first take that personally. But it's like, well, hold on, put yourself in their shoes. They may have not gotten PPP money. They may have had to just fire a bunch of their staff. They may be going through a divorce. Like you never
Right.
know. And so I think, you know, so there's a bunch of people that will say, well, maybe they're just having a bad day. It's like, remember that, it's not my fault. I'm trying to do my job. I'm trying to do the best that I can. And some of the best advice I've ever gotten is try to let it go, try just, and if you can't let it go, at least distract yourself with something else. And that's usually a new target or a new lead or a new partner or a new something. I do think that the most successful people, and I struggle with this myself, is letting go of that no.
Yeah. Because and what was that like when you first got into sales? How did you work through?
Horrible. I cried.
Oh, did you?
Well, I definitely cried a lot in car sales. You can still talk. I still communicate with my old bosses, and they'll laugh about it with you now. But they throw you on the sales floor, and you kind of learn as you go. And gosh, in car sales, people can be real tough. Now, when I moved over to selling payroll, it was tough in a different way because now instead of people coming into the dealership and you
You
have
have to go
one
get them.
shot, that's pretty much it. Either it works or it doesn't really, unless they're like you and they come back, which didn't really happen to me very much. But with payroll, you're now going out and speaking to businesses. And so it really feels like it's more on you and like, okay, now I'm ready and I've got my presentation and I've got my everything. And then they'll still say no. And my first few years, it was like, what am I doing wrong? What is wrong with me? And maybe there were a few things I could have changed, but gosh, it was so hard on myself. And you can really get in your own head and be on an island by yourself. I mean, where I work now, I don't have too many people around me. My boss is the greatest person on earth. And, I rarely see him, but he provides me a lot of support from afar. And that's all I need. But I think that rejection my first 2 years, oof, yeah, real tough, real tough. And being in that hyper competitive industry and the place that I was at the time, it was a very hardcore get over it.
Well,
Get over it.
get over it. It's like telling an addict, don't do it. It's like,
Yes.
yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't
Great.
know
I'll
that.
just I'll just still get over it. And some people can do that, and I admire that. I can't. And so sometimes I do need to dig in and figure out, all right, was it something that I was doing wrong? And if it wasn't something that I did wrong and I'm following my process, now I need to examine in here, okay, look, you did the best you could. I told you no. Put them back on your call list for 3 months, 6 months, a year. Things might change, but I think it's faking it a little bit and protecting myself a bit from, just remember, if you get that no, if you lost the sale for whatever reason, okay, there's so much else out there. There's so many other people out there. As a sales trainer once told me when I was having a horrible day, and it was payroll selling season, which is this time of year because a lot of people will transition in January, and it just wasn't going well. And she was like, go see one of your favorite CPAs, go see one of your favorite insurance partners, and they'll remind you that you're good at what you do. And I did, and I cut the day off that day and just went and I had lunch with one of my favorite CPAs, and she reminded me, you know, you're okay. There's going to be other stuff out there. I know it's a hustle, but I think that part is really important, is having someone to bounce that off of. And I don't think that that person should be in your company necessarily. Maybe they are, but for me, it's outside of my company, and someone who doesn't work in the same company that I do, so that I can get a bit of an outsider's opinion, because it can get overwhelming.
Yeah, because I don't think people talk enough about the neuroscience behind it. But rejection, we're wired to, because that's like getting kicked off the tribe. You're out of
Yeah,
the cave. So
yeah,
you immediately feel insecure, vulnerable, rejected. It's close to death. It's a scary feeling. I think what people have to do is give it a different meaning.
yeah,
The meaning isn't I'm rejected. The meaning is there's abundance.
yeah.
You can sell to N thousand, 100,000 people, not everybody.
Right.
Think of the most popular person in the world. Half the world hates that person.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's how we're wired.
Right.
Nobody is loved by everybody.
Yeah. I
Somebody
just,
hates Mother Teresa.
right. Oh my God. Yes, absolutely. And you're not going to be a good fit for everybody. And
Right.
that's okay. It doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It just means it's just not happening. you know?
Yeah. And just give it the right meaning. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean Sam is bad. It
Right.
means that person isn't open minded. They're fine where they are.
Well,
Or I
that's why I
can learn
think the
from it.
partners are so important too, because especially if you're a salesperson that has to stay within a designated territory, which I'm very grateful that I don't have that. But if I had to go back to that, the partners are even more important, because within those couple zip codes, I was told you need to go solicit every CPA in that zip code. Well, not every CPA is going to like me. Not every CPA is even going to want me to come in their door, because they already have solid relationships with two other reps or vendors or whatever, and they probably earned it. That took time. So whenever someone says that, oh, I have a trusted relationship with
Yeah.
someone already, I love that. I see that you appreciate loyalty. I really respect that. And I'm gonna steal a line from a coworker of mine. If I want to be your second opinion until you're ready to make me your first. I
Right.
love that one.
Yeah.
So I've started to use that, and it's a non-threatening way. It's kind of cutesy, but hey, no problem. I'll still be here. I will still be here. I mean, I got to call someone in about a half an hour because I haven't spoken to her in 3 years. Called up, hey, you still doing payroll? I have some clients that might need help. What?
Yeah.
So you just never know. But that's why I think the nurturing part is so important, and just being human.
Yes.
Like, be vulnerable a little bit.
And a lot of managers want us to act like census takers. It was like, okay,
Mhm.
take the 2,000 CPAs in your territory. You need to sell what? 30, 50 a year to crush your number?
So yeah, so whatever the number is, and then and the best is when you have a manager or someone. Well, this used to be a circle territory or a diamond territory, or what the rep before you had a whatever term they use. Why aren't you doing it? Well, what? That's arbitrary. To like, I've never understood that, because everyone's different. So we're not robots. And if you want to work with robots, that's fine. There's a lot of them out there and great technology. But if you want the hand holding, and you want the human interaction, and you want someone else that's going to actually share that trust with you and share that build, and someone that really gets off on that. I mean, I love that. I love seeing my businesses who friends of mine who have turned into business owners, grew up, made smart decisions, and now they've got 3 businesses that are thriving. And I got to be a part of that. I got to see them on night 1 when they opened their doors and their line was around the block. I knew that they paid their investors off within their first year. I got to see them open business 2 and business 3. Did they use me? Yeah, of course they used me for that. But it was more that I was keeping up with them. And, I'm so proud of you guys for succeeding the way you are. And especially folks who have been friends of mine in the past, and you see them go through this shift and they grow and they're starting to be successful. I love that. I get off on that side more of it. So it can make it tough. But I think if you find the right prospects as well, understand that maybe you shouldn't work with people that aren't going to respect your time. Like, it's okay to turn clients down. Now, sometimes we really need the money. And so that makes it tough, especially when you're full commission. But I've had to turn away some people where it's just like, you know what? For up here, this is not going to work. This is going to take up the next 3 months of my life. I'm getting probably paid nothing on this account, and this person is bugging me, and it's always my fault. Something, those types of clients, maybe best to step away.
Those are good for your competition.
Yeah, go take them, please.
Now, I'm sure there's a lot of reps listening to this that have a similar feeling as far as, yeah. What advice would you give them to save them years of heartache?
Yeah. First piece of advice would be, it's okay to be the way that you are. It's okay to be empathic. It's okay to be vulnerable. Please don't feel like you need to change who you are in your core to be, a better salesperson. I think, celebrate who you are and make that work for you. The next piece of advice is you've got to find your sounding board and your partner, but someone who will keep you centered. You can give advice, you can, receive advice, but that person has to be level-headed, has to be someone that can support you, but can also say, hey, kid, I think maybe you went off track a little bit there. Let me help you to get back. So that person, they've got to be honest. They can't just be your biggest cheerleader. They need to be a level-headed person. So I've got a few people like that who sometimes their advice is going to sting a little bit, but I know that I can trust them. I know that I can bounce things off of them, and they're going to give me excellent advice back. And then the third piece is just, make sure that your own leadership within your company knows who you are. I was told in the past, sometimes you need to manage your manager, and to a degree, I don't want to like jump all over them, but just have them understand, I am a bit more of a sensitive soul. I think that maybe these avenues might work better for me, and I need your help with these areas because I do get really worn out. And, maybe it's changing, not going to after hours events, but going to like the business breakfasts or something. If you can't, if you're just worn out by 4:00, sometimes it's not best to push yourself and go through to that event. Cause again, people can feel your energy. And if you're not feeling it, they feel that. And I've made that mistake myself. I've definitely shown up to places where I'm just having a crap day. I couldn't get over it myself. And like, I shouldn't have been there. I shouldn't have gone to that event. I should have stayed home and just kept to myself. So, know yourself, know your sensitivities. And if you're feeling like I really can't do this, sometimes it's okay to not push through. Sometimes you need to take an hour and go on a walk, reset, turn your phone on do not disturb, stuff like that. So that would be, that's always been the best advice that I've gotten. So
yeah, great. Where can people go to connect and follow you?
Yes, so they can go to LinkedIn, Samantha Chabot. My last name is spelled Chauveau. And I am also on Instagram. I've got Employee Management Consulting. I think I just made that page. And then Coaching Problems is my personal page. But yeah, LinkedIn is a place where I like to be very active, share helpful content with people. So I would love to have folks reach out to me that way, and I'd love to connect with anyone.
I hope you enjoyed that interview. What I heard was somebody who went from car sales, which is a transaction. You go on the lot and you either buy from the inventory or you order. And if you leave that day, you tend not to go back. I think I'm the exception. I would always drive by, go on the web, walk around, take a test drive, think it over. But most people, it's that moment. So you either get them then or you don't get them. Now that's what we call a simple sale. Single decision maker, single sales call, large or small, medium dollar amount. Now the complex sale usually is multiple conversations over multiple time periods. People just don't go from, pitch or presentation to handing out a credit card. That's a simple sale. And the complex sale, there's many decisions to be made. Which is the best product, when to buy it, how to pay for it, when to implement it. And too many of us treat the complex sale like the simple sale or a sequence of simple sales. And that messes it up, because in the complex sale, it's not if we buy, it's how and when we buy. And you have to map this out and prevent it from getting stuck. The default, you can just search on the Google about the complex sale and no decision. It's more than half the time. Now, this is critical for us to learn as salespeople. So either we need to focus on the ones that won't do that, or learn how to get it done now. And this is a skill, because the default is to do nothing. And it all feels good. We fall into these traps because we think they're showing all this interest, excitement, enthusiasm, and yet it stalls. That means half of our year is wasted. 6 months. Now, the thing about life is we think of time as this infinite thing. But, in your 20s, it seems that way. In your 30s, you start to realize. In your 40s, it's like you get kind of a wake-up call. Time is critical. When I talk to people about college, you always get that person who goes, I wouldn't trade those 4 years for nothing. It's like, really? What would you pay right now? Especially if you talk to somebody who's in their 50s or above. What would you pay for 4 years in your 20s? They're like, oh, yeah, I'd pay a lot. Right? Because those are the great, energetic, open-minded, high enthusiasm, resilient years. So when you give up time, you got to understand the cost of time. Think of the really productive years in sales. If you get 30 good years in sales, that's great, because you can make so much money in B2B sales. It's like being an entrepreneur. That's why I try and have everybody have a mindset of an entrepreneur. And the mindset of the entrepreneur is investing in yourself, saving time, because I talk to a lot of reps with 25, 30 years of experience who either, whether they know it consciously or not, how companies buy, or how to prevent falling into these traps. It's not about intelligence. It's about anticipation, taking a step back, and remembering that we are mammals. And we tend to fall into these emotional traps because a reptilian brain is trying to keep us alive. Think about increasing that win rate. 1, 2, 3, doubling your deals, doubling your income, or more than doubling your income. I had somebody ask me yesterday, it's like, well, I've been doing this for 15 years. Do you think I still get something out of it? I go, I still get something out of it. By teaching and talking through it, looking at my own deals. And I also give the analogy of, I've been playing chess since I was probably in first grade. Okay? So that's a long time. But I still have a chess coach. Why? And my chess coach is in college, right? They're just better at chess than me. It doesn't mean I don't know how to play chess. I know how to play chess. I just don't. I need to get better at it every day. And I need to see things that I didn't see before. I need coaching. I need feedback. I need to discuss it with somebody. I need to see how someone else is doing it. This is a performance profession. Get out of the knowledge. All I hear on LinkedIn, everyone starts the same thing. I've been doing this for N number of years. Congratulations. That's nice. That means you have a lot of practice. Doesn't mean you're good or bad. It means, some of the practice may be great. Some you might be in a rut. Why do rookies do so well? Because they're willing to try new things, and they usually work twice as hard. So by random, they might stumble upon some stuff, and their enthusiasm tends to be very attractive. Becoming great at this profession that you've chose. Because guess when it's fun? It's not fun when you're 80% of your quota. It's fun when you're 200% of your quota. When you talk about getting into flow state, you get into flow state when you start to feel success. You start to feel mastery of it. And sales, because we're dealing with people, and not only just a single individual, multiple people within the company. It's really hard. It's really an academic and intellectual and social experiment that we're doing. And they're either going to do nothing, they're going to go with your competitor, they're going to do as little as possible. How do you get that big deal? How do you get that return for your investment? Winning the complex sale is a game changer. Now, what do you get with it? You get not only the content with now like 2 years of one-on-ones and office hours, probably the largest single library of the complex sale in the world. But I've been doing this my whole life, and I've been really documenting it and analyzing it and taking much more of an engineering approach to it than a personality. This is not a magic words course. This is a strategy, process, momentum course about winning, eliminating your competitors, and getting the big deals done. This is for the people who really want to take their game to the next level. It pays for itself in the first deal. I bet within the first 3 months, it'll tenfold. If you really apply it over a year, it'll probably be 100x. It's up to you. How much energy and focus are you going to put into your game? Everybody wants to sit back and tell me the secret. Give me a tip. What do you do in this case? And it's like, okay, let's get into the game. You're all playing whether you admit it or not. If you sit in the bleachers and you look around, I don't know. You've got to get into the game. And the way to do it is to really see how the game is played before you get hit with the ball in the head. Most of us, we don't wake up until the soccer ball hits us in the head. You see that in the games. The kid was just standing there, boom, right in the, I should do something. The natural traps that we fall into all the time in the complex sale are unavoidable. You have to prevent them, because once you're in them, repairing from them is really difficult. Winning the complex sale is a game changer, and the time to start is now. Go to b2brevenue.com, check it out. You get office hours, which is an hour meetup every other Friday. I always prepare a lesson. We talk about case studies. It's all recorded and put in the course. You never miss a thing. You get one-on-ones, 30-minute Zoom call with me, applying it to your particular situation. You get the core content, which helps you define and map out your sale. Find out where the traps are. Find out how to add direction, momentum, and control to your deals and close them. Instead of looking at it like a black box, checking in, dealing with one person, trying to understand why the CFO kicked it back, why legal isn't moving forward, how to get the board to approve it on the first go-around. We've gotten 7-figure deals through like magic with this course, and you get to hear the deal progression, get to see how they did it. What's better? And no one's judging you. No one knows who you are. No one knows what you're selling. No one cares. It's all about getting deals done, staying away from tips and tricks, and focusing on strategy. So make sure you check it out, b2brevenue.com. Make sure you listen to the other podcasts, Sales Questions, Brutally Honest Answers, the B2B Revenue Leadership Show, and the Sales Leadership Show, my newest show. Get enough shows? Okay. If you see my stuff on LinkedIn, please give it a little thumbs up, a little like, a little comment, a little share. I'd appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.